I am Noraiman Asyraf bin Hafiz. I am from BA1145E. I will talk about Malaysian economic analysis. First, Malaysia is a federation of 13 states and 3 federal territories in Southeast Asia. It's divided into 2 regions, the South China Sea and Borneo. Peninsula Malaysia share its maritime and land border with Thailand, Indonesia and Singapore, and Vietnam. East Malaysia also share its maritime and land border with Brunei. Malaysia is relatively open and newly industrious economy. The state play a significant but declining role in guiding economic activity through macroeconomic plans. The country is an exporter of various commodities such as palm oil and tin, and its manufacturing industry has a large influence on the economy. The Straits of Malacca is a major export route for Malaysia. This is a table of Malaysia GDP growth. GDP is calculated as the total gross value added by all resident producers in the economy, plus any product tax minus any subsidies not included in the product value. For 2018, Malaysia GDP growth rate was 4.77%, a decline of 1.04% from 2017. One of the reasons GDP growth rate declined was because the prior forecast could not be realized due to slower growth. For 2019, Malaysia's GDP growth rate was 4.30%, a decline of 0.47% from 2018. It is influenced by the fall of economic sectors. For 2020, Malaysia GDP growth rate was negative 5.59%, a decline of 9.89% from 2019. The reason for the huge decline from the previous 2 years is because movement control order stage have been in place across the country since March 18, 2020 to combat the COVID-19 outbreak. This is a table of GNP development. GNP is the sum of all resident produce value add plus any product tax minus subsidies not included in the valuation of output plus net foreign primary income receipt, compensation of employees and property income. GNP for 2018 is 335.64 billion with growth rate of 4.46% by strength domestic demand, improving labour market conditions and wage increase, as well as increasing external demand for Malaysian manufactured goods and commodity. Export have all contribute to the country's rapid growth. GNP for 2019 is 358.84 billion with growth rate of 4.77%. The cost for Malaysia GNP growth in 2019, incoming foreign direct investment, human capital, energy consumption and tourism are the primary source of economic growth in Malaysia. GNP for 2020 is 342.45 billion with a decline rate of negative 4.79%. Movement control order stage have been in place across the country since March 18, 2020 to combat the COVID-19 outbreak caused the declining in 2020. Next is unemployment rate table. Unemployment is a circumstance in which a person who is actively looking for a job is unable to find a job. Unemployment rate in Malaysia in 2018 is 3.30%. It is because of the high youth unemployment and it's hard to find new vacancy in any company and slow pace of hiring in Malaysia. Unemployment rate in Malaysia 2019 increased by 0.01%, which is 3.30% 31% higher than 2018. It is the same as 2018 because new graduates find it's hard to find a new job because the qualification and specification. Unemployment rate in Malaysia 2020 higher than 2019 by 1.24%, which is 4.45%. It happens because movement control order stage have been placed across the country since March 18, 2020 to combat the COVID-19 outbreak. This is inflation rate table. Inflation is the gradual loss of currency buying value over time. The increase in the average price level of a basket of selected goods and services in an economy over time can be used to calculate a quantitative estimate of the rate at which buying power declines. Inflation rate in 2018 is 0.88% lower than 2017 by negative 2.29%. 2018 is shaping up to be a more inflation-friendly year. The large base should keep year-over-year price increase in check this year. Inflation rate in 2019 is 0.66%, which is lower than 2018 with negative 0.22%. It is because of consumption tax distortion, consumption tax impact on consumer price, slow wage growth, weight on spending and monetary policy. Inflation rate for 2020 is negative 1.14% with annual change of negative 1.80%. The COVID-19 pandemic that occurred in 2020 has indirectly reflected as Malaysia recorded a negative inflation. The end of Malaysia economic analysis. Thank you.